Culture is hard. It affects all. It spans through every inch of our society. One's culture is incredibly important to who they are. However, many people interpret culture differently, and thus it creates many different perspectives based on said culture. Interpersonal messages explains the link between culture and communications. It influences what you say to yourself and how you talk with your friends, lovers, and family in everyday conversation. My culture is ambiguous. My parents raised me without the heavy influence of Christianity. However, they were always really supportive whenever I wanted to join local youth groups. I feel lucky to have been surrounded with such a loving and accepting culture, as my parents have raised me to become whoever I want to be, with no expectations for who I need to become or what I need to believe. My culture, in a single word, is acceptance, and I believe that is what shaped me into the person that I am today. Should safe-sex practices be taught in elementary or middle schools, or is it a matter for the home? And should doctor-assisted suicide be legalized are two questions that go hand in hand. Throughout this essay, I will be discussing my stance on these issues and how they relate back to my culture as well as Christianity. Should safe-sex practices be taught in elementary or middle schools, or is it a matter for the home? Yes. According to a journal article by Melissa Kearney and Philip Levine, teens in the United States are far more likely to give birth than in any other industrialized country in the world. That claim sparks the question, why? One of the biggest, most controversial issues in the United States is teen pregnancy and how to address effective prevention strategies. Schools in the United States, primarily located in the South, teach abstinence-only sex education. This education style is one of the biggest disservices the American education system provides. This strategy is wildly ineffective because telling an individual not to have sex does not alleviate the inherent curiosity that it sparks. The vast majority of teens will inevitably have sex. However, if safe-sex education were to be introduced at a younger age, not only would it decrease the stigma surrounding sex, but also it gives students longer to understand what sex is, the repercussions of it, and how to protect themselves. Should doctor-assisted suicide be legalized? Yes. The American culture revolves around the value of our personal liberties. Our right to vote, speak freely, worship freely, bear arms, and assemble are all heavily valued personal liberties the government is not allowed to dictate. I believe physician-assisted suicide, or euthanasia, should be valued as a personal liberty as well. Americans should have the right to choose what they do with their bodies. The New England Medical Journal discusses the steps physician-assisted suicide takes. These include a 6-month life expectancy, appropriate physical and cognitive strength, 2 oral requests, 1 written request, as well as physician approval and confirmation of diagnosis. Euthanasia by no means is an easy decision, nor is it easily accessible. This is a decision made by an individual who are not suicidal, but rather individuals who have come to terms with the life that they have lived. The individuals suffering from terminal illness, like cancer or dementia, have had all of their control stripped from them. They deserve the right to die on their own terms, when they are ready, while they are in control of their lives for a final time. Interpersonal messages discusses self-concept as the image of who you are, your feelings about your strengths and weaknesses, your abilities and limitations, and your aspirations and your worldview. People deserve the right to die knowing who they are. They deserve the right to choose between constantly fighting for their lives and a peaceful passing with closure and grace. Comprehensive sex education, as well as physician-assisted suicide, both tap into controversies of Christian culture. Safe sex education encourages elementary and middle school-aged children to learn about their bodies and how to protect themselves from the inevitable repercussions of sex. This education strategy directly contradicts the Christian purity culture and its heavy influence on abstinence-only education. The legalization of physician-assisted suicide widens personal freedoms in the healthcare setting. It provides an alternate treatment to the terminally ill, which brings control back into their lives and brings closure to the families while allowing the patient to die on their terms with dignity. Physician-assisted suicide also causes controversy in the Christian culture, as many view euthanasia as playing God. These questions, should safe-sex practices be taught in elementary or middle schools, or is it a matter for the home? And should doctor-assisted suicide be legalized? Both shine a light on just how influential our culture is to our perceptions of what is right and wrong.